Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Faheem, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Faheem.
Thank Mike for joining us, folks. That's Mike Simmons, running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, state senator currently. Great guy overall. Do check him out. And now it's time for us to introduce you to our featured guest today, which is going to be Tushar Gandhi. Good morning, Tushar. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And it is such a pleasure to be able to see you. Let me introduce you to my team. We got Reed Bible, who joins us from Henderson, Nevada. We got Dr. Sheila White and Mike Patino on the team today. And in the 9 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Congresswoman Murray Newman, and Attorney Maria Mozaffar will be joining us at 9:30 to talk about a couple of things that is happening in our world over here. But to come back, folks, let me introduce you to Tushar Gandhi. He's the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, and he is himself a wonderful writer. His book, Let's Kill Gandhi, is a chronicle of the last days of Gandhi, the conspiracy, the murder, the investigation, the trials, and the Kapoor Commission and all of that. But today, we want to talk to him about a couple of very important topics. And I want to start off by having Mr. Gandhi introduce himself. Good morning again.
Good morning. I am Tushar Gandhi. I come from India. I'm here to commemorate my parents, actually, who initially started commemorating the period between the death anniversaries of my great-grandfather and Dr. Martin Luther King, and commemorating the 64-day period in between as the season for nonviolence. And after they've both passed, I have taken over the responsibility of reviving that practice. So this year I came, and we had that program in Chicago last week.
Okay.
So that's what brings me here.
Okay, wonderful. So let's dive right into it. Dr. King drew deeply from your great-grandfather's philosophy, especially in America. Now we are celebrating Black History Month. When you look at today's world in India and in America, do you think we are honoring that shared legacy of nonviolence?
Unfortunately, officially, neither of the country any longer cherishes or practices nonviolent practices, but in the common people, in their need to lead secure lives, I see a lot of nonviolence. We saw people fighting for their democratic rights back in my country, in the farmers' agitation, and before that, in the agitation against the citizenship agitation, the CAA and the NRC, which were seen as dangers to the democratic rights of citizens. And we have seen that in the protests against ICE in the US, and also the No Kings movement, and before that, the Black Lives movement. And so in times of need, humanity has always turned towards nonviolence to protect their rights. If you look at the administrations and the governments, they veer towards violence as their creed. You see how the threats are issued, you see how bullying is done and things. But when it comes to common people, I still feel that the faith in nonviolence is intact and, as a matter of fact, growing.
So both Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. believed that democracy requires moral courage.
Absolutely.
In India today, especially with the Narendra Modi government and the RSS all over the country, how do you assess the health of secular democracy in India?
Uh, unfortunately, secular democracy, both the secular ideal and the democratic principle, are on the retreat in India. Majoritarianism and kind of intolerant, monoethical uh, system is being foisted on the Indian people, and people like me who cherish the secular and democratic, constitutional democratic
Mhm.
principle are on the back foot in India. But I see that all over the world, democracies seem to be retreating. Democracies seem to be weakening. And also it is this human trend that I'm seeing where the charm of the strong leader seems to be
Mhm.
overpowering the basic principle of democracy, where society and the citizenry are the powerful and the leaders are those who serve those ideals, and the constitution is the most powerful element in a democracy. Today we see that we all get swayed by the supposed charm of very strong leadership, and that
Yeah, we are
that
we are facing
fascination.
that. Yeah, we are facing that over here in our country also. But
Yes,
folks, we are talking with Tushar Gandhi, the great grandson of Mahatma Gandhi. He is visiting from India, and right now, I think you're in. Where are you now? You're in Boston now, or where are you?
I'm in Rochester, New York at the
You're in
moment.
Rochester, New York. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. So, coming back to our conversation, Gandhi envisioned pluralism rooted in spiritual humility.
Mhm.
Dr. King spoke of the beloved community. Are those visions compatible with majoritarian politics?
Not at all. Not at all. Because in the basis of that ideology, you see the element of respecting the minorities, those who we dismiss as having no influence on a democracy or the mechanism of democracy. And so I believe that today, when we see the kind of endorsement of the fact that in a democracy the majority is the one that is influential and that has to be listened to. If you look at the ideal democracy defined by my great grandfather Mohandas Gandhi, and I make a distinction over here. I don't refer to my great grandfather as the Mahatma, because you put him
Mhm.
on a pedestal and then you convince yourself that we cannot emulate him. And so I like to keep him as a mere mortal, and so I refer to him as by his Christian name. He said that the weakest voice in the democracy must be the most powerful, and their will and their rights must be protected. Today, unfortunately, we have sort of forgotten it, and everywhere we see that we believe that majoritarian rule is the correct way to go. Dr. King also fought for the rights of the weakest of the weak. He said those who do not have a voice need our assistance and our support, and their voices need to be amplified. And that is the spirit of a pluralistic inclusive democracy, where we live and practice compassion. We are
Mm.
compassionate by nature,
Mhm.
and we make it our duty to assist those who cannot assist themselves. Today, also, if you look at it, democracy, in the previous interview that I was listening to, that what I was realizing was that all over democracy is becoming hostage to money power. The
Absolutely. And
process of democracy is being hijacked by money and wealth, and it's going out of the reach of common people. Now, how can that ever be allowed?
so let me ask you this. Martin Luther King Jr. over here in our country confronted segregation.
Mhm.
Gandhi confronted colonial rule. What is the defining injustice of of our time, in your view?
I think the defining injustice of our time is majoritarianism. I keep repeating this term majoritarianism because I see it as the greatest danger posed to the true spirit of democracy, like the supremacist ideas of colonial times and of post colonial racist regimes. We see that today, although on the face of it they claim to be democratically elected governments and representatives, you see that they follow the trends of majority appeasement. And that is one of the greatest dangers. And I think that ideal itself is born out of the fascist belief in superiority of race, and that afflicts my country back in India, as well as I see more and more of it in the US too.
Well, let's do a quick lightning round, and I would love to carry on this conversation for at least an hour, but unfortunately on radio we don't have that luxury, and then we do have Dr. White itching to ask you a question. So one Gandhian principle the world needs right now.
Compassion.
One teaching of Dr. King that feels urgent today.
Embracing everybody. Embracing everybody, making everybody feel wanted, making everybody feel equal. Equality, compassion, and dignity. I think those three words sum up the legacy of the two iconic leaders.
Okay, one action an ordinary citizen like me can take this week.
Believe in the other person's right to protest. Believe in the other person's right to be different.
Okay, I got one more question for you. Okay, and then we'll go to the panel over here. If Gandhi and Dr. King were sitting together today, what would they say to leaders in India and America?
I think they would remind them of the fact that they are servants, not leaders. They should not forget that. But your question brings to my mind a very telling cartoon, a caricature that I came across once, and it's also, if people search for it on the net, they will find it. It's Gandhi and Dr. King meeting in the clouds, and Gandhi tells Dr. King that they still believe that they killed our idea. I think that is a very great reminder of ideas can never be killed. Human beings can.
You are so absolutely right. And Dr. White, you have any question for Mr. Gandhi over here?
Yes, thank you so much for being here. What is the most profound and non-political lesson you learned directly from this great historic leader?
Unfortunately, I was born much after he was removed from our midst. But I was fortunate that grew up with my grandmother and my father, who spent a lot of time with my great grandparents. And so my childhood was filled of their stories. And I think the one thing that I carry, or the lesson that I carry with me in my life, is being responsible, taking responsibility for things. Many a times, we all identify what is wrong, but we wait for somebody else to rectify it. We don't realize that we also have to be responsible. And so for me, taking responsibility is the most the greatest takeaway that I have learned from my great grandfather's legacy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Reed, you got any comments, any questions for Mr. Gandhi?
Yes, I do, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for being here. It's a privilege to be able to speak with you. My question to you would be, can you explain why your great grandfather and others feel that the use of nonviolence as a tactic is superior to any other in the struggle for social justice? And was there ever a circumstance in which your great grandfather that you might know of, would he condone the use of violence?
Well, I think why he endorsed nonviolence was his belief that we must empower the weakest of the weak, and he felt that even the weakest could have the moral courage to practice nonviolence. And because he believed that nonviolence was a spiritual force, and spirituality is ingrained into every human being, or I would say life form. And so he believed in the power and the ease of use of nonviolence. But to go to the second question that you asked, in writing, he has written, my great grandfather, that if ever he was to endorse a war, it would be a war against the Nazis to stop them from what they were doing in Europe during the Second World War. So he has gone on record in writing of endorsing violence in certain circumstances, but he qualifies that by saying that that would be the last course of action. It would never be the first course of action as we see today, where aggression and attacks are threatened as the first line of communication.
Well, especially in our president over here,
Absolutely.
he is
Absolutely.
going nuts. Okay.
Absolutely.
And fortunately, we live in a country where we are allowed to say that without having them come down in a helicopter on top of our studio and saying and picking us up
Well,
over
don't wish
here.
that.
Okay.
That can happen too.
But but still, we are very fortunate to live in a country where we have the freedom to speak, and we are fighting against enormous powers to keep those freedoms over here, Tushar. Mike, you got any questions for Mr. Gandhi before we let him go?
Yes, I do. Mr. Gandhi, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's really nice. It's a privilege to have you here. So I was wondering, you mentioned earlier about the strong man, how people are gravitating to the strong man. How can we push back on that? How can we make servant leadership something to be attracted to? I find that's very difficult, and everybody, as you stated, they gravitate to that strong man.
I think it is the fascination for Rambo and Terminator that physical strength or aggressiveness is considered to be strength, whereas real strength is the strength of character and morality. This difference between strength physical and strength spiritual needs to be understood by people, and I think that is what we must explain to people, that you don't need to be a boaster, you don't need to be a bully to be effective. Silently one can achieve much more, and if you persevere. And this craze for instant justice, instant change, instant effect is also contributing to that charm of the strong, aggressive, male macho character kind of thing.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, folks. This is Tushar Gandhi, and like he likes to say, he is the great grandson of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, not the Mahatma Gandhi, because if we put him up on a pedestal, we are not going to be following what he achieved as a human being. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'd like to go back to Read Bible. And Read, you wanted to say something today about what is happening in our country.
Well, I had a couple of things I want to say, but time constraints are going to confine me to just doing one thing. And that is I want to continue in the vein of Dr. White and do a tribute